Well, here of Morning JOX, JOX 94.5, Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order on a Thursday morning. It's kind of got to get the kinks out a little bit. Got to knock roast to New Year 2025. We are here. We are live here on JOX 94.5. First off, Happy New Year. Happy holidays. Hope everybody had a wonderful holiday weekend, holiday season. As we approach 2025, we are here. Not the best of starts for the one Alabama Crimson Tide, because this is the first show live here as we start the new year. Hope everybody is safe and sound, and know a lot of heavy hearts this morning with the incidents down in New Orleans. A senseless tragedy for another representation of just violence here in America. But we do have the Sugar Bowl that was postponed till today. So we'll get Georgia and Notre Dame in the college football playoff. A lot of action in the college football playoff, a lot of bowl games, just a lot going on, a lot to recap. But this is the first show of the new year. Conrad, Happy New Year, brother. It's kind of bittersweet, of course, with everything that we were expecting in the college football playoff. Takes a backseat to, again, just the start of the new year with just tragedy there in New Orleans. But overall, again, a new start, a fresh slate for everybody to come into the new year. Probably not the start that we wanted here for the state team represented in the bowl game with Alabama falling to Michigan. But overall, hopefully you had a safe and wonderful holiday season.
Yeah. I mean, it was, always good to get some time off. It's kind of weird because I'm here today and then I'll be off for 4 more days. And so it's just kind of one of those weird things this time of year. But no, I mean, it was good to get to ring in the new year and get to watch some college football. Unfortunately, a lot of it was not very good. Thank you for Arizona State for kind of salvaging the 12-team playoff. And Alabama was bad. That was embarrassing.
Yeah, you know what? Let's just go ahead and start there. Just rip the Band-Aid off. A very poor performance in the ReliaQuest Bowl for Alabama as they fall to Michigan 19-14 and 19-13, and that score does kind of make it a lot closer than what actually was played on the field. Because if you watch the first, let's say, 3 minutes of the football game, it was not the Alabama team we had seen all season long, or at least from what we expected to see from this Alabama unit, and it was bad. And it starts with the quarterback position in Jalen Milroe with 3 turnovers in the first, 3 minutes of 4 or 5 minutes of the ball game. And it never felt that Alabama, like it was the Michigan team with Harbaugh and all those boys and stuff there. This was overall one of the, it was a bad Michigan football team that was kind of, we got a chance to play in a bowl game. And they look like they wanted it a little bit more than Alabama. Was never in the ball game. As Michigan jumped out to them, which, granted, I will say this, for it just first quarter, you actually considered yourself lucky if you're Alabama, because it could have been
Yeah, I mean, it certainly could have been a lot worse. I think you have to give a lot of credit to the defense. I mean, they only gave up 190 yards of offense. Alabama had points compared to the 19 that Michigan scored. And like Damian was saying, I mean, essentially outside of outside of those first few drives of that first quarter, you gave up a field goal, for the rest of the game. This is a Michigan team that hasn't had good quarterback play all year long. Their top 2 running backs were out of the game. You were playing their second string defense, essentially, and you were still having problems getting beat at the line of scrimmage by the second team defensive front for Michigan, which is not great. But I mean, it really just kind of felt like, honestly, if you had just told me that the Oklahoma game was a 2-hour game instead of a 60-minute game, I mean, this was basically the continuation of that. It was very similar and very reminiscent in a lot of ways, especially the second half of the Oklahoma game, where you came out and had those multiple turnovers to start the second half, and you just kind of felt like that was it. I don't really even know where to start with all of this. It's just, I mean, the obvious thing was that Jalen Milroe was terrible.
Yes.
On Saturday, or not on Saturday. What day was that? Tuesday, whatever day that was. No, he was terrible. And, my thing is just, and I understand, after the game, Kalen DeBoer, well, I just saw a guy that wanted to fight for his team, and I'm going to stick with those kind of guys out there. And I said, not when they're playing bad. Is that what matters most now? Is, oh, they look like they want to be out there? You probably got a lot of guys that look like they want to be out there, but you got a dude that's a deer in the headlights out there, and you're going to. It just, in my opinion, the way that game was handled is pretty indefensible. And it didn't have the feeling of, the Utah Bowl game back in what was that, 2009? The Oklahoma game in 2013.
Yeah.
Some of those bowl games where you went, okay, you lost a game at the end of the year. It knocked you out of probably playing for a national championship. So you're not really motivated for the bowl game. And it just didn't really have that feeling. It had the feeling of a lot of these guys wanted to be there and they wanted to play one more game. And this is the performance that you got. I mean, look, we can't make no arguments to be made anymore about, well, if Alabama had gotten in over SMU, it probably would have looked just about the same as it did when SMU was in there. But no, I think I just thought the way that game was handled was pretty poor, in my opinion, because if Jalen Milroe, first off, I understand you wanted him. He wanted to come back and play for the game. I totally get that. If he wanted to play the whole game and he was playing well, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. But he's not playing well. You're losing the football game, and you have an opportunity to get a look at a guy like Ty Simpson for next year. It was a win-win situation, in my opinion.
Yep.
And I understand people are going to go, well, then you look at, the drive you had late in the first half where Milroe had the 40-yard run, and then you had a 40-yard pass back-to-back, and it's like, that's what can happen when he's out there. And it was, okay, and that was great. And that one drive happened, and that was great. What happened in the second half? A lot of the same stuff that was happening earlier on. You just weren't turning the ball over. And so look, I don't want to just sit here and talk bad about Jalen Milroe for the next hour, but the fact that he regressed so much from last year to this year is pretty shocking.
Yep.
And at this point, I know people have asked about it, and personally, I still think he's going to try to go to the NFL. I think maybe it's a little more likely that he tries to come back for another year after what we just saw in that bowl game. And if that is the case, I do not think that he will be the quarterback at Alabama next year if he does come back to college. But that he's frustrating, man. It's hard to watch at times, and I understand that he can make some spectacular plays, but you got to be able to make the routine plays. And you could just see, man, Ryan Williams was frustrated in that game. 3 catches for 8 yards, and you got little 6-yard out routes that he's sailing 3 feet above your head. Like, it's just little things like that. It is, and I hate saying this because I know it's an exaggeration 99% of the time. You and I can go on a football field and make that throw 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
It's not a hard throw. Like, we're not saying, these aren't, 40-yard fade routes that he's missing, they're in the corner of the end zone or something.
This is just pitch and catch.
These are fundamental, your walk-on 7th string quarterback can go out there and execute that at a higher level than he was on Tuesday. And it's unacceptable. You could see the frustration on the wide receiver's face. Why you only run the ball 12 times with your tailbacks is indefensible yet again. That is another problem. And I'll be honest, right now, I'm done with Jalen Milroe. I'm done with that. I'm ready for him to be gone. I'm kind of done with Nick Sheridan. I think that is potentially an area you need to look at because this in the Oklahoma game, you score a total of 16 points against teams that combined to go, 14-12 this year? And you're averaging not even 10 points a game in those matchups. And yeah, and I'll be honest, if you're Kalen DeBoer, you're a little bit on the hot seat now. And this is your fault. You have, in your last 9 games, you beat Georgia. We all were riding high.
Yep.
Alabama can go win a national championship. Look what they just did to Georgia. I know it got sketchy in the second half. You're now 5-4 since you beat Georgia. 5-4. And you've lost to Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, and then, some of the other ones maybe not as bad. Michigan looked, Michigan at the end of the day, you're like, okay, maybe that team was a little better than we gave them credit for, but still, they were a 7-5 team you lost to, and then Tennessee, they made the playoffs, so that's fine. But you have 3 losses to teams that,
oh God,
I'll say it, Nick Saban would have lost those teams.
Mm.
And we know it because he never lost those. He lost what? The Texas A&M game in 2020 or 2021? Like that, those games didn't happen.
Dog. And I was watching it. Me and my girl, we was watching the game, and she's an Alabama fan, and she was just like, now, I'm not the smartest in the room. I'm not I'm not gonna sit here and say like I could go out there and make those plays, but these are things that are routine. It's catch, look to your left, hit an out route. Like it's almost momentum builders just to actually give you confidence. Like, okay, we can get this thing rolling. And to your point, it's bad. Like, and I understand body language is one thing because it's evident. But I mean, Giovanni Bernard, excuse me, Jeremy Bernard, he was frustrated. And he's looked at as one of the guys that, he's looked at as Kalen DeBoer's guy. Like, that's a receiver. He's just like, oh my God, like what is going on? Anything that could possibly go wrong went wrong. And to your point on Nick Sheridan, I came away so frustrated. I was just like, okay, how many touches does Jam Miller have? I was just kind of like, okay, the weather kind of plays a factor into it. Okay, well, don't ask Jalen to go out there and throw the ball. Get back to the quarterback design runs or things. But the offensive line was having an absolutely horrendous day. I mean, tackles getting absolutely bail run.
Bad snaps again.
Oh my gosh. Everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong in the bowl game. And to your point, I think, if you had to give a grade, and I'll open it up to the listeners as well, 205-834-9450, your text message, your calls. What would you give this Alabama season? Just all encompassing, even just taking into account what you saw in the bowl game. What letter grade would you give Kalen DeBoer in year one at Alabama? Because I think, to your point, until you said it out loud, it didn't really click. Yeah, you beat Georgia, but after that, you were 5-4. And one of those wins was against Mercer. Like, you essentially went 500 on the way out on the back half of the season. Because to me, I think, one, this bowl game kind of summed up the entire season. It's ultimately boom or bust with Jalen Miller at the quarterback position. Because when he booms, it's outstanding. When he busts, he looks like one of the worst quarterbacks in college football.
Well, and so I put this on Twitter after the game. And so, I mean, let's make no mistake about it. The greatest benefit that Jalen Milroe brought to the table this year was his athleticism and his ability to run the football. I think we all know that. But when you just think about where he went from as a passer from the beginning of last year, where he struggled greatly, he gets benched, and then he started to find his way, right? Remember the Texas A&M game last year, and it's like, somebody's going to challenge him, and we're going to have to go out there and see if he can do it. He goes out there, throws for over 300 yards, has a great game, and you're like, okay, he started to figure this out. And then as the year got along, he started to figure out almost like the perfect way of mixing in how to use his legs as an advantage in the passing game and use that to mess with the opposing defenses. And he kind of felt like, okay, he's starting to figure out his skill set. And then you came out at the beginning of this year and you go, man, he had 370 passing yards against Georgia, 120 rushing yards. You're like, good night. Like, this dude's going to win the Heisman Trophy. And then since that game against Georgia, these are Jalen Milroe's passing stats. He has 1,880 passing yards, which is good for 209 yards per game. Yeah. All right, so these stats are over 9 games.
Oh, boy.
9 games since Georgia.
Oh, boy.
So 1,800 passing yards, 6 touchdown passes in 9 games, and 10 interceptions. And in that 9-game stretch, 4 of those games, he threw 0 touchdown passes. Granted, oddly enough, you won 3 of these games because you won Auburn, you won Mizzou, and you won LSU. But then you also have the Oklahoma game. And then, you factor in fumbles and things like that as well. Boy. But
yeah.
I'm just saying something happened. And I don't know what it is, if it's he truly was hurt all year long and it was just affecting his footwork and just his ability to do the fundamental things correct, or if he just mentally is fried for whatever reason and is just incapable of reading a defense. And it doesn't make sense. I'm trying to think of another player that I have seen regress that has so much talent and progressed so much, it appeared, and then in the middle of a season
just tank.
Because he looked great at the beginning of the year, and then something happened a month into the season and he forgot how to play football, or he forgot how to play quarterback. And I don't understand it. And I get that the offense this year was kind of built around that, and I understand why you stuck with him. I did think that he gave you your best opportunity to win with the way the offense was constructed, but it's very clear that this offense needs to change drastically for next year. And whether it's Ty Simpson or Austin Mack or Keelan Russell or whoever, I think it's safe to say that the offense is going to look different. And if it doesn't look different next year, Kalen DeBoer is going to be on a very, very, very hot seat for his third year in Tuscaloosa. And yeah, I don't know. And I mean, with Sheridan, look, he did some good things this year. The game plan against Georgia, the game plan against LSU was great. This is clearly a dude. It's his first time ever being an offensive coordinator. And
you can tell. You can tell.
I don't know if Alabama is the place you need to be doing your first year as an offensive coordinator, but I'm not the one hiring these people. So
yeah, hey, listen, man. You know the Jalen Milroe quote from last year, getting ready for the Rose Bowl game, and how Bill O'Brien was saying that he shouldn't be a quarterback. Yeah, that's kind of resurfacing again. And
well, he can go to Boston College with Dylan Lonergan if he wants.
Yeah. Kind of looks like it when the tweet is shout out to the haters. You actually were right. Couldn't get it done. Kind of getting that return on investment. 205-834-9450. You see your reaction on the text line, the phone lines. Bama this season. We also need to talk about the college football playoffs because it was exciting for one game. The rest kind of went about out as expected. We'll keep that conversation going on the other side. Keep it locked right here on JOX 94.5. Welcome back into JOX 94.5 Morning JOX. Damian Mitchell alongside Conrad Van Order and you as well. 9450. Your text message, your calls are always welcome as we kind of recap the entire Alabama football season. What letter grade would you give Kalen DeBoer in his first, let's just be straight up, after a terrible performance in the bowl game in the ReliaQuest Bowl versus Michigan? But that wasn't the only action we got during this New Year's season, as we did have the college football playoff. Starting off New Year's Eve, Penn State knocks off Boise State 31-14. Ashton Jeanty, proved that, okay, if not the best back, but when you put the ball on the ground as much as he did against the quality of competition that you went against Penn State, it wasn't a good showing. Penn State has, at least the first two playoff games, have shown like, all right, I may have been a little gun shy on Drew Aller, but he's gone out and just performed exactly how you needed him to. He's handled his business. Went 13 for 25, 171 yards, 3 touchdowns against Boise over the weekend, and they handled their business. They go out there. It looked early on. Penn State jumped on them early, jumped on them quick, and it never really felt like Boise really had much of a chance in the ball game as the Broncos fall 31-14. Now you flip it over to yesterday, and we got SEC representation as Texas and Arizona State was set to do battle early on. It took 2 plays for Texas to go out there and score the first touchdown. It's like, all right, here we go. Buckle up. Then they get a punt return for a touchdown. And it's like, all right, well, Arizona State, you are showing that we need to the committee really needs to start looking at how they seed moving forward. A lot of credit to Arizona State. Cam Scatterbo took a little bit, but he gave absolutely everything he possibly could for Arizona State to continue getting into the ball game all the way into the fourth quarter, where it's like, all right, well, if Texas is just going to keep playing with their food and just keep letting Arizona State hang around, Arizona State's going to mess around here and come back. And that's exactly what they did as they took it to overtime. Quinn Ewers, we are going to have a real discussion about Quinn Ewers and the way that he plays the quarterback position for Steve Sarkisian. I don't understand why Steve Sarkisian continues to just let Quinn go out there and just make some of the craziest throws you've ever seen. He has no zip on his ball. Everything that he throws just kind of looks like
floats a little bit.
Oh my gosh. And it's like, okay, if you actually step up and throw some of these things, your completion percentage would go through the roof. You could probably be the most accurate quarterback in college football, because for every bad throw he makes, he drops an absolute dime to Matthew Golden in the second overtime. And it's like, oh, okay, now that's the Quinn Ewers we want to see as Texas knocks off Arizona State 39-31. A little uglier than it needed to be, but Texas continues to fight on and continues in the college football playoff.
Yeah, I feel like this might be a game that they needed, kind of just like a little bit of a kick in the rear end, going into overtime. Because like you said, you had that beautiful throw to Matthew Golden in the first overtime. Then you come out in the second overtime, first play, boom. 25-yard touchdown to Gunnar Helm. And you're like, all right, this is what I was expecting, right? And it's okay, so this is how you ended the game and how you started the game offensively. You were explosive, and that's exactly what we expect from Texas. And then everything in between, like you were saying, you're just sitting there watching the game in the second half, and it's like, okay, I know Arizona State's not in it because they haven't really done a whole lot offensively, but really feels like Texas should be up, 31-3, something like that, not 17-3. Like it feels like you said, they were almost playing with their food. And all the credit in the world to Arizona State for not giving up, and for Cam Scatterbo. If you did not watch the game yesterday or you missed some of it, dude had the flu.
Yep.
He was on the sideline throwing his guts up. Like you just saw the look on his face during that game, and it was like someone who's about to die. Like he looked unwell. And all he did was go out there and throw the only passing touchdown of the game for Arizona State, run for 143 yards and 2 touchdowns on 30 carries.
Yep.
And catch 8 passes for 99 yards. Like, that was one of the most, just in terms of an all-around performance, one of the best all-around performances I've seen in modern college football history. I mean, it was absolutely remarkable. It was really cool that he won offensive MVP, even though they lost. I mean, I know it kind of is bittersweet, but it was cool that they still honored him and said, hey, you single-handedly took this game to overtime and almost won it for Arizona State. So it was cool to see him get recognized for that. But, yeah, man, Texas offense – Texas is just so hard to figure out, man, because there's sometimes where, they're really good defensively, and that's kind of what keeps them alive because it just feels like we keep waiting for them to click offensively for a full 60 minutes. Because like you said, there are flashes of it, and there are times where you're just like, man, like they look like they'd be unstoppable, and then there's other times where Quinn Ewers looks like he probably shouldn't be playing quarterback, and so they're just so hard to figure out, and you have the problems on special teams, and I know a lot of people, I guess Sark shouldn't have talked to the kicker before he went out there for that game-winning kick. I guess ultimately it didn't really matter, but yeah, it was a weird game. It was a weird game for Texas, but shout out to Arizona State. I mean, you got that safety, and it felt like that really kind of sparked everything for them from that point moving forward, and for them to make it as good of a game. By far the best game of the college football playoff so far. So yeah, and I'll just say this though, we'll talk about this other game here in a minute, but if you're Texas, you're looking at who you have played in the first 2 rounds, and now you're looking at the film of who you're about to play, and you're like, oh, okay.
Oh boy.
This is Ohio State, man.
Dog. They are listen.
They might beat everybody by 21 plus the rest of the way.
And speaking of Ohio State, they took on Oregon in the Rose Bowl game. And, we kind of had, you was like, hey, Oregon, you've gone out and handled your business week in and week out. Nobody really felt like this was the most dominant team in the college football playoff, but they matched up with Ohio State in the regular season in a Big Ten matchup, beat them by 1. And it seems as though Ohio State was like, give us one more chance. Give us one more chance. And you thought the game against Tennessee last week, or the other week, to start off the first round of the playoff, that Ohio State was like, oh yeah, Tennessee just looked outmatched. Well, Oregon didn't do anything to kind of suffice that either, because Ohio State just goes out there in the first quarter of the ball game. It felt as though like Oregon had forgotten that this is a playoff game. Like, you have to win this game in order to advance. Like, there ain't no there's no, we can get it back next week. And the first quarter, Ohio State jumps out 14-0, and then the second quarter shows up, and it is all Ohio State. Ohio State takes a 34-8 lead at halftime. If this Ohio State team jumps off the plane like they did the past 2 games, Texas, you are in for an absolute onslaught, because offensively, there hasn't been a team to even slow down Ohio State. Not even to make it a threat. It's when Ohio State is clicking, they are absolutely hitting at a clip that we have never seen. Jeremiah Smith, by God, for as hype as we are about Ryan Williams being an exciting freshman, Jeremiah Smith is a grown man trapped in an 18-year-old's body. That son gun, if you put it anywhere around him, it's not a 50-50 ball. It's 99-1% that Jeremiah Smith's coming for. And Oregon didn't have a defensive back, didn't have a player past nor present that could have stopped Jeremiah Smith yesterday. And Ohio State, they absolutely boat raced Oregon 41-21. Now, again, that score is not indicative of how this ball game went. Oregon had 0 chance of winning this ball game at any point.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this was one of the more dominant. I mean, just in these types of situations, I mean, it's very reminiscent of, like, it's crazy to say, but, in the first half, you're sitting there and you're like, man, this is like Georgia and TCU, like, straight up.
Yes.
I mean, it was a beatdown. And credit to Chip Kelly, man. He figured something out after that Michigan game. Just that is, Alabama, we've talked about the head-scratching losses they've had. I think Ohio State's loss to Michigan is probably the most head-scratching loss in college football this year, just because you look at that and you go, how did that happen? And then the next 2 games, you look like it's mind-blowing. And the fact that they remembered, oh, yeah, we got some pretty good receivers out there. Maybe we should just throw them the ball the whole time. Yeah, that works out pretty well. Yeah, Jeremiah Smith, he's the best receiver in college football. There's no doubt about it. I love Ryan Williams. it may be, part of it is just the offenses they're in, the way that they run. But yeah, I mean, he would be the number one pick in the NFL draft if he was able to.
Yes.
He would go over any quarterback. Yeah,
Yes.
he is that good. He is. I mean, when I have seen multiple people, like national media people, saying this is the best wide receiver they've ever seen in college football. And sometimes we do get caught up in the moment. He had a huge game yesterday, but yeah, Ohio State just looks incredible. They have the best defense in college football too.
Yes.
They held Oregon, and I mean, sack yards count towards this. Oregon had negative 23 rushing yards yesterday. Negative 23.
Dog.
Just think about that.
Dylan Gabriel looked like a deer in headlights.
He did. And he ended up, finishing up, in kind of garbage time. He was able to make some things happen, had a couple touchdowns to Trayshawn Holden. And so he now finishes second most with all-time touchdown passes in college football behind Cam Ward. But no, I mean, what can you say about Ohio State? They look, if they play half as good as they have these last two games, they're going to win the national championship.
Yes.
And if they play like that, they're going to beat everybody they play by at least 20 points. Yeah, they're insane. And this is what $20 million should have bought you. So,
exactly.
I mean, to be honest, like, this is what I expected. I mean, I picked them to win the national championship at the beginning of the year because it's, how are you not going to win when you have that much talent on your roster? And it maybe took a little while, but, here they are. And man, do they look good. I will just say this. If you're an Alabama fan, you did score more points against Michigan than Ohio State did. So maybe that makes you I'm trying to cope. I'm trying to give people something to be optimistic about this morning. But no, I mean, Ohio State, incredible. Hats off to Ryan Day for getting that win. I think he's safe now. I think he's good. But also, shout out to Ohio State for proving multiple things this weekend. The 12-team playoff is a good idea because Ohio State wouldn't have been in if this was a 4-team playoff, and they clearly look like the best team in the country right now.
Mm-hmm.
On top of the fact that by blowing out Oregon the way they did and Tennessee the way they did the first time, maybe it hurts some of us because the narrative was really fun that Penn State or that SMU and Boise State and, all these teams didn't exactly belong in, but I think we're just kind of seeing now that sometimes you run into a buzzsaw like Tennessee and Oregon did, and that's exactly what it is. So I think we can all say, while it hasn't maybe been the most competitive and entertaining at times, I think Ohio State has proven why we have a 12-team playoff, and they clearly look like the best team in the country right now. And we'll see, how things go with Georgia and Notre Dame this afternoon, and maybe one of them, they look really, really impressive. But right now, this tournament, it's Ohio State's to lose, no doubt.
Yeah, and shout out to Will Howard because I'm not gonna say I was unfamiliar with the game, but the throw he made to Ibuka, right, I think it was like it might have been the touchdown. Oh my god,
where he's like right there in coverage.
Oh,
it's nice.
You can't coach that. Like that's
nice.
That's one of them like big old Kahuna throws right there, dog. Like, oh yeah,
they got their swagger back, man. They got that confidence.
Yeah, I was like, okay, Will, my apologies, my brother, because that's a grown man throw right there, big dog. And he is the product of what Ryan Day's offensive system is for quarterbacks. It'll make you look real good. And the people that you throw into, good Lord. Again, Jeremiah, I'm telling you, if you could build a receiver, you want him to look just like this, bigger, he's only going to get faster, he's only going to get stronger, he's only going to get better. And we're seeing him as a child in place. But we'll continue the conversation on the other side, college football playoff. Of course, Alabama lost to Michigan in the bowl game. What letter grade would you give Kevin DeBoer in his first season at the University of Alabama? And we'll get your reaction on the other side. 205-894-9450. Keep it locked right here on Morning JOX.
6:39 here on Morning JOX here on your Thursday morning. Recapping Alabama's embarrassing performance against Michigan in the ReliaQuest Bowl, as well as the college football playoff quarterfinals. Of course, you have the Sugar Bowl that was postponed until New Orleans yesterday morning on New Year's Day. But that game is going to be coming your way at 3 p.m. today. So if you are, I know for some people, hopefully you're, if you're still got some time off of work, it'll be a nice afternoon. I think there'll be a lot of people the last couple of hours at work, maybe a little distracted. But hopefully that'll be a good one there with Notre Dame taking on Georgia, because we need it, man. Right now we are, by my calculations, we played 7 playoff games. 6.5 of those games have been pretty much duds, and then the second half of the Texas-Arizona State game was good.
Yeah.
That was about it. Now, if you're an Ohio State fan, you probably enjoyed both of your games, same with Penn State. But, yeah, should be a good one today. I'm very, very excited for this game. I'm very interested to see how this plays out and how Gunnar Stockton looks for Georgia, because right now, I mean, if I had to pick right now, I think it'll be Ohio State and Georgia playing for the national championship. But a lot of people are picking Notre Dame, man. Notre Dame is really, really sharp. This is maybe this is just the year that our perspectives are changed on the Notre Dames and Penn States of the world. Who knows?
Yeah, and especially Penn State. But I look at the teams that they've played, and I'm like, okay, how much stock do I really want to put in James Franklin? Maybe James Franklin rewrites the narrative of he can win big games, because every playoff game you win is a big game, no matter how you slice it up. No matter who's across from you, you got a chance. Penn State is one of the Final Four teams playing for a national championship.
So if you're Oregon, are you sitting here today and you're going, man, maybe we should have lost that Big Ten championship game?
That path looks a little different. That path looks a little different.
I was about to say, there's a reason we've been talking about it, and there's a reason that is most likely going to change for next year, because if you're Oregon, you're like, I mean, yeah, we got to win the teams that are putting for us in the playoff, but you were the number 1 seed, and you get to play Ohio State, and Penn State gets to play Boise and SMU. It's maybe not fair.
It's not. Indeed. 205-834-9450. Your text message, your calls, always welcome here on Morning JOX, as we kind of discussing what letter grade would you give Kalen DeBoer in his first year at Alabama. Joseph texts in. He says he'll give him a C. You cannot lose to Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, and Michigan, but the win against Georgia was great. Fair. Casey texts in. He says, I give the Tide a C-. I've been saying all year long the offensive tackles are garbage. Elijah Pritchett has had a ton of penalties this year. If he's not false starting or holding, he's getting beat on the edge. Proctor, no better.
Well, okay, so because I was thinking about this yesterday between my tears. All right, so I was thinking of what are the positive things that we can take away from Alabama this year. And these are the ones that I came up with, and if I forgot some, please let me know. I don't think that I did. Ryan Williams.
Yes.
I think that was maybe the biggest plus for a lot of people. Ryan Williams. The defense came along under Kane Womack, looked really, really good the second half of the year. A lot of the young guys in the secondary got some good experience, and they looked pretty good. You beat Georgia. That's it. And recruiting. Recruiting went well.
That's pretty much it.
I don't think I really missed anything. And I could be, and I know, yeah, we could say, oh, every win was a good, okay, but no. I'll give you the Georgia win. Maybe the way you played against LSU was great. I'll give you that. But seriously, I mean, Ryan Williams, the defense really came along by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Those are kind of my positive takeaways from the season as a whole.
That's pretty much it. CJ texts in. He says, I give Alabama a D. Ooh. It's not so shabby. Let's go to the phone lines, 205-834-9450. Let's go to Miami Hater who wants to talk Alabama with us this morning. What's going on, Miami Hater?
Good morning, guys. How are y'all?
Hey, no complaints this morning, man.
Hey, y'all, you were asking about a grade for DeBoer, and I'll just be honest with you, man. The negatives outweigh the positives.
Yep.
If you just back up and look at it, I'm giving the guy a D. The only positives are Georgia and Auburn, but the losses they're horrible.
Mm-hmm.
You're double-digit favorites in all those games against unranked teams. The Michigan game was just unacceptable.
That was terrible.
And this loyalty to a fall thing with Milroe, the big question after the game is hey, is he going to stay or is he going to go? Well, cut his NIL money. Don't pay him $2 million. Just cut it.
You brought something up there just a second, Miami Hater. So Kalen DeBoer has now lost as many games as a double-digit favorite in 1 year at Alabama as Nick Saban did his entire tenure.
Absolutely. I mean, just cut Milroe's money. If I'm going down, I want to go down building for the future as opposed to watch that crap show that we saw.
I agree.
Against Michigan.
Yep.
It's terrible. The best coach across the board the whole year long has been on defense. As much flack as he caught, he's shown more improvement over there. And then we're watching the head coach that can't make the tough decisions during the middle of the game. I mean, I'm like, just pull him. Pull Milroe, please. Save him from himself. Help him.
Well, do you want to win the football game? That's the thing is you have your starters out there because assuming that you want to try to win a football game and you're hurting your team by leaving Jalen Milroe in the game. That was the most indefensible part about it for me, Miami hater, is you are trying to win the football game and you are actively hurting your team's chances of doing that by keeping him on the field.
I'm not a fire the coach type of guy, but DeBoer makes it so easy for the haters to be correct about him.
Yeah.
I mean, he just plays right into it. And we're sitting there watching, and I'm watching wide receivers just throwing their hands up. They're running wide open all day long.
Yep.
We got a quarterback that can't decide. You know, he can't figure out that 1 + 1 = 2. And in Wink Martindale, I sit there and listen to the announcers the whole game, and all they want to do is give this guy credit. All he's doing, if we're blocking with 5, he's rushing 6. Now we don't know where the +1's coming from, but
and that's the kicker.
It's not that hard. It's like, get rid of the ball. Good Lord, run a slant, do something. There's wide receivers wide open all year long. We've seen him throw it at their feet, throw it behind them, throw it over their heads. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And now you're seeing the frustration on the receivers. I'm not worried about Milroe. I'm worried about Ryan Williams. I'm worried about Jeremy Bernard. Those are the guys I'm worried about jumping in the portal. Milroe can go. Just cut his NIL. He'll be gone. Yeah. And I love his character. I love the guy. I love his leadership abilities and his character. But to watch him over there shedding tears on the sideline because he made some boo-boos, I mean, you're getting paid $2 million, brother. I mean, act like it. You know what I mean?
Hey, man,
it up.
Yeah. You're right, man. Miami Haber, we appreciate you, man. He's not wrong.
He's getting paid more than that.
Let's go to 808 and Chelsea wants to talk some with us. What's going on, 808?
What's good, brother? First, want to continue those guys in New Orleans. Want to continue in our prayers, brother. Shout out to Damien for breaking the internet again for New Year's. Damien, you got to quit doing it, brother. Quit doing it, Damien. And number 2, guys, if Auburn was 9-4, that'll be a success season. Auburn would love a 9-4 right now. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right.
You were, but the expectations are different.
Let's keep it 1,000 now. Y'all keep saying Ohio State. Ohio State is the Ohio State University. Them boys playing smash mouth football, and I'm loving it. And guess what? The committee got it right.
Yep.
Bama didn't deserve to go there. Tennessee didn't deserve to go. SMU, the Big Ten is the new SEC. Hey, have a blessed day.
You too, man. Hey, I understand you're on the Alabama front, but
I mean, I do Big Ten teams and 2 SEC teams left in the play. Granted, that could change in like 8 hours, but
Miami Hater came out today. He was like, "Hey, man, we don't care. We don't care. Get him out of here. Cut his money. Hit him where it hurts. The pocketbook." This is where college athletics has gone now. 205-9450. We continue the conversation on the other side. Keep it locked right here on Morning JOX and JOX 94.5. 6:52 here on Morning JOX 94.5. Damian Mitchell alongside Conrad Van Order here with you for a few more moments as we get you set for McElroy and Kublik in the morning.
Does the NCAA need a new theme song? Very fitting one.
Absolutely. That or got
money.
Got money. Because that's exactly
everyone's got money now.
Yeah, you ain't lying. Boy.
At least if you're a player.
Man, somebody takes in 205-834-9450. Somebody takes in and said, I saw so many complaints about terrible quarterback play and not running the ball on Tuesday to the point it seemed that Auburn was playing Michigan. Y'all ain't
on that bandwagon a little bit.
I tweeted out a picture of Jalen Milroe so far, and there was a picture of Peyton Thorne. And who would have thought at the end of the year we'd be having the conversation that, in hindsight, who was the better quarterback this year?
I mean, it was Jalen Milroe, but the fact you can even kind of make that joke is not good.
Exactly. Let's go to the phone line. Speaking of Peyton Thorne, let's talk to Wardam Don this morning. What's happening, Don?
How did I ever know that was going to be brought up today, Damien?
Man, I'm telling you.
But you know what, though? In Conrad, buddy, I got a little nugget to throw at you. Since the Georgia game, y'all finished 5-4, and one of those 5 wins was against Mercer. So
you must have been listening to the show this morning, Don. I appreciate it.
I know you're frustrated, buddy, but I got some good news for you, brother.
What's that? We got a big recruiting class coming in 2026?
Well, no. Number one, your quarterback for the future plays today at 3 o'clock in that Under Armour game, and he's number 1 quarterback in the country. See, I'm trying to brighten your day. I ain't going to rub it in on you, but Keelan Russell is a hell of a quarterback.
Oh yeah,
yeah. He's gonna be a special talent. It'll just a matter of how long it takes.
You get to watch him today at 3 o'clock on the Under Armour game.
Yeah, that'll have to be on the secondary TV because of the Sugar Bowl.
Well, actually, guys, I don't think that game's going to be played today. They were talking about it this morning on the news, and I think they're going to move it to Saturday.
Oh man.
Well, if that I haven't seen anything on that, but yeah, I mean, if that happens, that's gonna cause some problems with the rest of the schedule because then you're gonna be having a team in Penn State that's gonna have how many extra days to prepare for this matchup?
Yep.
So that's
right.
That's gonna be tough. But I mean, at the end of the day, the most important thing is safety and security. And I will just say this: the people yesterday that were complaining, "Oh, why are you not just playing the game today?" Like,
no,
dude, do you not realize what just happened? Like, do you not care about people's safety?
Yeah, and guys, they still had dead bodies on the ground yesterday, okay? So, no, everything. And really, to be honest with you, I think they need to push it back another day or two because it's still a mess down there.
Yeah.
Okay, but, guys, real quickly, Conrad, like I told you when you took my call, me, FSU Dave,